Hi guys, Johnny here, and I'm here to bring you the next instalment of my series on the chakra system. So we've been looking at the chakras, and I've been trying to get an overall picture of how the chakras kind of affect us as human beings. We looked at the fact that the body has a central channel, central meridian, which is known as the Sushumna in Sanskrit, and through this central channel travels an energy called Shakti energy, also known as Kundalini, also known as Prana, in different concept, in different sort of aspects of this, but basically it's a basic life force energy that flows through the body. Starting at the root, and we talk about grounding. We talk about the fact that when we sit or stand on the earth, we're actually absorbing the earth's energy. It's actually coming up through this lower vortex, spinning vortex of a chakra. What is a chakra? It's basically one of the major chakras, are 7 in number, and they more or less follow that central line of the body, more or less following the line of the spine, starting at the base, at the root, and going all the way up to the top, to the crown, to the top of the head. So we looked at the root, and we looked at the fact that that is all to do with our basic survival instincts, the things that we need just to survive. So whether it's food, water, clothing, reproduction, keeping warm, all of these sort of things, not being eaten by a tiger. It's where we sort of develop that fight or flight impulse to kind of get away from danger, or whether to fight it, that type of thing. Once the basic needs are met, we move up to the next chakra, which is found in the belly, the lower part of the belly, which is the sacral chakra. This is the colour orange. Here we basically looked at the fact that it's the centre for our pleasure, our enjoyment of life, our basic creativity, creating our dreams, our desires, that kind of thing, and enjoying our enjoyment of life. It involves things like sex as well, any kind of pleasure that you can imagine, enjoyment of food, enjoyment of whatever it is that you enjoy to do. Because after getting the basic needs met, the next human impulse is to enjoy ourselves. After that, we moved up to the solar plexus chakra, where we looked at how this is where we actually make the decisions for our own life. We make the decisions about what we do, what we don't do, who we listen to, whether we master of our own lives or whether we're listening to somebody else. It's that control element, and around which also the ego is built, my sense of who I am as an individual. This is me, that's you over there, this is my place, that's your place, you stay there, I'll stay here. We won't have any trouble, there'll be no fuss, no bother. Those 3 chakras we looked at are basically pretty common to everybody on the planet, every human being. They are things that affect everybody on a day-to-day basis, and right up from somebody who's, fighting for survival, living rough somewhere, up to somebody who's, in the corridors of power, some billionaire who's kind of trying to run the world and trying to dominate everything and everybody, whether it's through power, through money, or whether it's through politics, whatever it is. You've got these things. So after this point, we come up to the central point, the heart, the Anahata chakra, which is basically where we start to have a bit more of a two-way interaction with others. It's where it's our centre of our love, our kindness, our compassion. So it's where we stop just thinking about and caring about ourselves, and it's where we start to care more about other people. Moving up from that point, we come to the throat chakra, which we looked at last time. A blue, sort of light sky, almost turquoisey blue colour, which is to do with our communication, how we speak, how we express ourselves in whatever form, whether it's art form, music, whatever, and how we listen and take in information. It's that two-way communication, which is very important. And it was we looked at how it is the point at which we start to have that sort of psychic connection, that kind of sixth sense almost, but we sort of starting to get glimpses, maybe starting to hear things, maybe on the inside, maybe audibly, but we're starting to hear things, messages from places that we didn't expect to hear them from, not the normal channels, not just normal conversation or whatever. We're starting to make communication at a slightly higher level, or we can do. Again, if this chakra, like all of the others, is not blocked, and there is a flow of Shakti energy coming up through the channels. After this point, we come to the next chakra, which we're speaking about today, and that's the third eye chakra. It's represented by this kind of place. So just if we take our finger and put it just between the eyes, and then we move up just slightly above the eyebrows there, you find a slight indentation. This is the point where this chakra can often be felt. Yes, we can feel it as a physical sensation at times. But if we actually take a point from there and come through at the back of the head, we'll have a sort of a slight indentation at the back of the head there. If we were to draw a line through there, and then if we were to draw a line through from one ear to the other, through the middle, between the eyes, we'd have a point where these two lines intersected. And at that point, deep in the centre of the brain, we have what's known as the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is really what the third eye chakra is all about. That's really what's there. It's kind of understood that this is the point from which this comes. Now, we know all about the eyes and how they receive messages, sort of light, and how that's transposed into signals to the brain, and how we understand our environment around us. The pituitary gland, the third eye, is a little bit different. It's actually almost like a radio receiver. If anybody knows anything about radios, you'll know that sort of very primitive, basic radios actually work from a crystal setup. So crystals all vibrate and oscillate at a particular frequency, and a crystal can be set to actually receive radio waves, and with the right electronics that can actually convert that into a sound, an audible sound, so we can actually pick up and translate those radio waves. Well, the pituitary gland is not necessarily picking up radio waves, but it's actually picking up messages, signals from things that we can't actually see. We're coming into the realm of clairvoyance, what's known as clairvoyance, which the French word literally means clearly seeing, clear vision. So we're starting to see things clearly, which we can't see with these two eyes, but we can see and we can tap into with what's known as the third eye. Now, it all might sound very woo-woo, it might seem very like out there, very, spacey, whatever, but I want you to look at it this way. We do all actually use our third eye on a day-to-day basis. Let me explain. If you imagine something in your mind. If I said to you, imagine an apple, shut your eyes and picture an apple. Picture what it looks like, picture how it feels when you hold it in your hand, picture what it smells like, picture what it tastes like. I should imagine that most of you would actually be able to do that. Now, you could say, well, I'm using memories from my brain, whatever, but you're actually creating an image in the mind. A picture, a visual picture inside the mind. Also, sort of a picture of a map of the taste, the smell, the sensation of actually touching it. All of those things, they all come from the imagination. So I want you to just think along the lines of the fact that the third eye is a way that we actually perceive things that we're not actually perceiving through the five senses of sight, sound, smell, taste and touch. We're actually getting an image inside here, and we all do it. If we sit and daydream, you often look at somebody, and you can sort of tell they're daydreaming because they're kind of like, it's almost like as if they're staring, and you can tell that they're seeing something. They might be picturing their next holiday, maybe, or what's it going to be like on the beach. They might be picturing the new house that they're going to move into. They might be picturing what they were going to have for their evening meal that night. But all of these things use imagination, and this is something that human beings have as an ability to do that we wouldn't expect to find really in the animal kingdom, should we say. Don't get me wrong, I might be wrong. Some animals may well have a good sense of imagination, but usually this is something that is particularly a human trait. So we all like to do it. We all like to daydream, we all like to imagine. And if you can kind of think of that process of what happens there, you don't even think about it really. So I know there's a lot of talk about how to get the third eye fully open so that we're really able to kind of see the future, make predictions about things, know what's going to happen, see spirits, ghosts, aliens, etc. Well, I'm not discounting any of those things. Yes, there is a potential for each and every one of those things. But what I want you to get across to you is the fact that this is really a skill and ability that we all use every day. Okay, so back to the sort of the symbol and the sort of tradition behind the third eye chakra. So we've got the colour indigo, which is that sort of very dark purpley blue. Think of the colour of sort of new denim, unwashed new denim jeans. It's supposed to represent the night sky just before it gets completely dark, just before all the light's gone, and you've got that deep, dark sort of blue, like an azure colour, like an indigo colour. It's that dark sort of purpley sort of blue, and because there's a lot of symbolism about the night, and rightly so, because this also affects our dreams. So every night we go to sleep and we dream. We may not always remember our dreams, but our dreams are produced by the third eye, by the pituitary gland that's in there. They are the product of that. Now, there's a bit of speculation as to whether we are actually in a physical place that we've gone to in another dimension, or whether it is a vision that's coming to us. You know, why can we often see loved ones that are no longer with us, that have passed away? Why can we be in another part of the world, or maybe somewhere, you know, in outer space even? Why can we literally be anywhere, do anything, and go beyond the realms of our normal everyday life? Well, again, this is all part of the essence. If you can kind of grasp the fact that really there's no kind of barriers with the third eye, we can kind of be transported somewhere, we can go outside of ourselves. That's why we get talk about things like astral projection, out of body experiences. All of these sort of things have been linked and associated with the third eye chakra. But what I would say is, in order to open this third eye, it's a gradual thing. So we talked about all the other chakras: spinning, turning, opening, allowing the flow of Shakti to come up. With this particular chakra, it's very connected to the crown chakra, which we will go into at a later time with another video I'll be doing. The flow of energy comes from the universe, from the divine, from the supreme being, from the power of the universe, the source, whatever you want to call that entity. The power comes down and it comes and enters our being at the point of the crown, and that energy flows down into the third eye area, just the same as the energy flows upwards from the root. So as they go through the body, these energies converge, and they converge first at the point of the heart chakra, at the anahata. But when we come to the third eye chakra here, there's a lot of kind of mythology connected with it. So, you know, we get the term seer as well. A seer was a person who could see into the future. Somebody who is able to kind of look out there using the principle of the third eye, see what's coming in the future, maybe through a dream, maybe through a vision, maybe through some sort of divination, but they're able to have some sort of view of this that's coming. So this is very much to do with it. It's very much a feminine energy. So the different chakras have either got a male or a feminine predominant energy. And in the Hindu traditions, the goddess Harkini is associated with this one, and she's a goddess of intuition and wisdom and those kind of things. She's one of the incarnations of Shakti. So Shakti, the energy, Shakti also the goddess, and Harkini is one of those examples. So really you can look at all of the different gods and goddesses that we find in the yogic and the Hindu traditions as all being aspects of the divine. Each one is almost like a different aspect, if you like, a different facet of what God, what the supreme being, what the source is actually like. Each one represents a different aspect of the particular supreme being, if you like. So we have various mudras that we can use when we meditate, meditating with a purpose to open and activate this third eye chakra, to allow, again, Shakti energy to flow. So the first one that I'll show you is if we put our index finger and thumb together like that, and then we hold the other three fingers flat like that, and naturally we would put our hands on our knees like that when we meditate. This one's called the Gyan Mudra. Okay, that's one. It's a good one if you are chanting using a mala, because you can keep this mudra with the one hand and use your mala at the same time. There's a couple of double-handed mudras that we can use as well, and I'll go into why using mudras is part of the process in a moment. I'll just show you what these are. So the next one is the Kasham Mudra. So this one is basically, we put together we fold in these fingers, the little finger and the ring finger like this. We put the middle fingers together, we fold in the index fingers like this, and then we've created a sort of a double triangle, which we then put downwards in our lap, like so. So that's another one, if you can see that one. And then finally, the other one I'll show you, which is a nice easy one if you want to sit with your hands together. It's known as the Hakini Mudra, named after the goddess Hakini. So we put the tips of all of our fingers and thumbs together like this, and then when we sit, we can again pop them in our lap like that. So those are three of the mudras. The mantra that is chanted for this one is one that I've covered before. It is the Om mantra. So it's pronounced Om. And usually the last syllable, the sound, is drawn out. And as we draw out that last syllable, hopefully we will feel, if we hit in the right tone for us personally, we will feel the resonance of that sort of up the nasal cavity and into that area just above the eyebrows there. So really it's about the whole principle of how energy travels through the body. So the Om sound is to do with the R sound being felt in the belly, the Oo sound being felt in the heart centre of the chest, and the sound resonating through the head. So if you think of it as almost like an audible representation of the transport of the Shakti energy going through the body, you'll get the idea. So traditionally what we would do is we would adopt one of these mudras. We would chant the mantra Om, Om, and at the same time we would simultaneously visualize at this point between the eyebrows, the third eye, we would visualize the colour indigo. We would, with our eyes closed, because we're going to shut these two eyes out, because we're going to concentrate and focus upon the third eye, which is hidden right there in the centre of the brain. We're going to concentrate on that, but with our eyes closed, we will turn our gaze, as it were, our focus of our eyes upwards and to the centre, and at the same time we would visualise an indigo glow of light at that point. Okay? The more we chant, we may find that indigo gets lighter and brighter, almost to become like a white light, because the element that is associated with this particular chakra, the Ajna third eye chakra is the element of light. It's not, you could say it's not technically an element, but as we went through the body, we started with earth at the root, then we went up to water with the sacral, then we went up to fire with the solar plexus, we went to air with the heart chakra, then we went to ether or space, if you like, nothing, which is not nothingness, but it is the medium through which the others are transmitted. Just imagine sort of the vacuum of space, as it were. And then when we come to this one, we've got light, which is a media, which is a wavelength, a movement of energy that can actually penetrate the vacuum of space, can actually go through it. You know, sound can't, and heat and other things can't sort of, you know, get through there, but light can penetrate that. So if you think of pure light being white, pure white light that's emitted from the sun, and then if you stand a block of glass prism in front of it, that light gets refracted and it gets split into all the colours of the spectrum, which are representative of the different chakras. But if you can just imagine this indigo light coming from that white light almost. So this is one of the things that we often find with this. The whole concept of the third eye chakra is it's going to be a journey that we're going to be on. If we're on this spiritual path and we're seeking that, then it's going to be a journey that we're going to be on for an awful long time, because it's not something that you can just snap like that and, oh, the third eye's open. There's no magic formula for it. We can have glimpses of it, and as I said, we use the third eye on a daily basis, in our imaginations, in our dreams, in our visualizations. So that's another reason why it's good when we meditate on this particular chakra, the Ajna chakra, to actually visualize that light and that point there. Now, I can attest to the fact that when you do meditate on this, then you will start to have sort of flashes of there. And yes, people report things like seeing light, maybe sometimes, maybe just like a little speck of light, maybe colours, maybe the colour indigo, maybe other colours may appear in there. But they're colours that are seen without these two physical eyes. They're seen at a deeper level. And that's a signal that's going somehow and coming from this central part of the brain, and it's being activated by the Shakti energy that's flowing through. As I say, it's not a quick fix, it's not a quick one, but with time and patience, a lot of meditation maybe, you will start to notice differences in your life. Now, as with all the chakras, I've talked about the differences when a chakra is working as it should do, and when it's not functioning properly. There's a lack of flow of energy through, there's a blockage, etc. So with this particular chakra, you might find that somebody who typically has a blockage here and that the energy is not flowing at all, you'll see it in people who would sort of say, I don't have any imagination, I just can't see that. You know, the sort of person that you probably try and describe something to. Now, if I say to you, think of a lemon, shut your eyes and think of a lemon. You can think of, the colour of the lemon, you can think of the shape of it, you can think of the smell of it, the taste of it. Well, some people would say, I just can't, okay, that's a bit of an extreme example, but say I wanted to describe to you how I wanted my garden landscaped. And I said, yeah, so I'm seeing a rockery over here and a shed, footpath up here, some flower beds over there, a bit of a rockery, fountain, a pond, whatever. Now, some people would just say, I just can't visualise it. Can you, if you can just draw me a picture, I can see what you want, I can interpret it, put me the dimensions on there, wherever, and I'll go and landscape your garden for you. Another person you can speak to, and again, if this third eye chakra is working, then as you describe it, they'll get like a visual image coming into their head of what you're talking about. It may not be exactly what you envisaged when you spoke about it, but the point is that you're seeing something that's not physically in front of you. You haven't physically seen it, but you are creating in here an image of something. So with that in mind, we start to move on to the subject of clairvoyance. So clairvoyance really, traditionally, is the idea that we are seeing, we are experiencing messages, images, pictures of things that we can't tangibly, as I said, see and experience with the normal five senses, but we can sort of get glimpses of them. It may be something like a bit of telepathy, maybe you and it usually starts with somebody that's close to us, so maybe a close loved one. They come in the room and you look at them and you just kind of know what they're thinking. It's how do we know without being told what another person's thinking? But I'm sure most of us will have experienced that. So with the third eye, and that's sort of a basic level, really. You can walk into a room and you can sort of sense an atmosphere there sometimes. You can know if someone's been talking about you when you walk into a room sometimes. That's another example. Well, there are people whose third eye is so sort of blocked and closed and there's no energy flowing there, and they just haven't got a clue. They're not at all intuitive in any way. They have no idea. They have to have everything explained to them completely. Not a criticism of somebody who's like that. If you don't get that, then hey, we're all at different levels. There's nobody who can say my third eye is completely open and I see everything. If you did, then you would be the divine. You would basically be God. You'd be omniscient. You'd know everything. It's to do with not just necessarily seeing, but knowing things without having evidence. Without having physical evidence, we just know something is the case. We can call it a gut reaction, if you like. We can call it a feeling that we get. But when we follow that, then we are being led and guided by that third eye chakra. So we could go on about this a long time. Visualization is very important. Chanting is important as well, is a good one, because it's all to do with, and this is very much key to meditation, because meditation is probably the best way to actually activate the third eye, to develop that psychic, intuitive sense that is in all of us, but it's at different levels of development, different stages of opening and being awake. And the whole process of enlightenment and being awakened is to do with us starting to understand who we are, what is our place in the world, what is everything about, basically, and understanding that everything is one. I spoke about the fact that with these two eyes, we tend to see everything in black and white, if you like. We tend to see everything as right or wrong, left or right, up or down, good, bad, I like it, I don't like it, etc. When the practice of using the third eye becomes sort of second nature and we start to really live by our intuition, we can go into the world, and this is something that we can practice after having meditated upon this, you know, focused, maybe chanted, maybe visualized the third eye, sat there for some time doing this. Afterwards we can go outside maybe and we can look and we can maybe see things in more detail than we did before. And I would encourage you all not just to meditate on this, but I would encourage you all to develop the habit of mindfulness. Mindfulness really is just about going out into the world, noticing everything that's there, being aware of things. Now I know that living in the 21st century, it's far more likely that you're going to walk outside and you're still going to be looking at your mobile phone. You're going to be very much more influenced by that than you are the world that's around you. This is kind of the world as we see it today. But I would encourage you, spend a little less time on your screen and a little bit more time actually engaging with the world around. I go to the beach, I go to the mountains, I go to the woods, and I see people who are looking at the world through the lens of their mobile phone. They're not actually engaged with what is actually there presenting itself to them. The more you develop your powers of observation and presence and being mindful and being here in the moment, the more likely you are also to open that third eye. Because the more you notice the specific detail and the specifics of the things around you, just looking around in the room at things, you can look at an object that you looked at 100 times, and if you look closely enough, you'll find some detail on that object that you've not seen before. Here's another little exercise that we can all do. Take an object. I've got a nice piece of crystal here. Take an object, look at it closely, look at it carefully, take in all the details of it. Just fix your gaze on it for a period of time. And then when you've done that, shut your eyes and continue to visualize it, continue to see that object. Whatever details you noticed about it, you'll find that you can still continue to see a lot of those details afterwards. You're not seeing them with these eyes anymore, you're now seeing them with the third eye. This is a visualization at its basic sort of form. This is how we can take and process mental images and turn them into visions, etc. That's a good exercise. Another great exercise that you can try is candle gazing. Make sure the room's completely dark. Light a candle, preferably a nice one with a nice steady flame. Make sure that it's not flickering due to a window being open or a door or something like that. Look at the most solid part of that flame, and as you gaze, just keep staring at it with your eyes. Just focus on that part of the flame for as long as you can. Try not to blink as much as you can. And then, again, shut your eyes, turn your back on the candle and continue to see the flame of the candle with your eyes closed. Visualize it in your mind. Another excellent exercise. The more you do this, the more when you sit in meditation and you visualize the third eye, the more likely you are to be able to actually see things in there. And people report things like, as I say, bright lights, colours, shapes, even to the point of people actually seeing maybe faces, landscapes, etc. I'm not saying this is all going to happen all at once, but what I am saying is these are all potentials, they are all possibilities, that like every one of the chakras, they can get blocked up. Another sign that you have problems in there, it could be things like headaches, migraines, dizziness, things like that. Yes, it's possible for it to be almost too much energy flowing through the third eye. It can be overactive, although that's a lot less likely, but you can get things like people who maybe like head in the clouds and they're completely disconnected with people and things that are going on around them. They're completely kind of out of it, almost like they're on some kind of, trip or something. Yeah, there are drugs, there are natural plants and mushrooms and things like that can give you glimpses into this kind of realm of the third eye. But I'm not promoting any of those. I don't actually have a strong opinion one way or the other about those. That's not what I'm talking about today. But what I would say is the best way to activate this third eye is to do it gradually, to do it through techniques like meditation. Because if you suddenly, and this is why people get, and they say through things like psychedelics, they'll say that they had a bad trip. People get things that will come to them really quickly and quite alarmingly. They see things, they're not prepared for them, they're not ready for them, and it can kind of freak people out. I'm not talking about that. That's not the pathway that I'm on. No judgment towards anybody for whatever path they're taking, but for me personally, I'm going the slow, steady route. I'm going to get there. I'm not telling you that I am a person with a wide open third eye. My third eye is open to a certain extent. Your third eye is open to a certain extent. Maybe there's somebody who's got their third eye more open or stays open for longer and then closes up a little bit. I don't know. There's no judgment of anybody else. And I'll leave it on that point about the fact of lack of judgment. And as one very wise guru and yogi once said, by the name of Jesus of Nazareth, if your eye is single, then your whole body will be full of light. And what did he mean by that? Well, he meant that if we were to focus upon and be able to see things through the perspective of the third eye, everything would become much more clear. Like a lot of sages and gurus, Jesus talked about oneness. He said, I and the Father are one. He talked about unity. He talked about us all being in union with each other, almost being like a family, etc. Again, I'm talking about the breaking down of this system of duality. What you like, what I like, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. it all leads to judgment. And the more you get into the spiritual realms, the more awakened and enlightened you are, the more you will realise that it's not about you judging someone else, you pointing the finger and you saying, I'm right, you're wrong, I know what's right, etc. The more you are awakened, the more you go through the awakening process, the more you will realise how little you actually know about the world, about life, about the universe. I'm not saying that you won't know more than you knew when you started. What I'm saying, you will come to a realisation that there is an infinite amount to discover. And I'm excited to be on this journey of discovery. And I hope you're on this path with me as well. So I think I'm going to leave it at that point today. Thank you for listening. I hope it made some sense. I hope you managed to get through my ramblings. But until the next time, thank you for joining me on this. If you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up button. If you have a comment that you want to leave, respectfully, please, then pop it in the comments box below. If you found this interesting and you want to join me in some of my other videos about this exploration of spirituality and the journey to enlightenment and awareness, then please feel free to subscribe to this channel as well. But until the next time, thank you for joining me, and Namaskaram.